We're back. T.A. Mahoney, Tales from the Darkside. I got a weirdo buddy with me today. I was thinking about this. You know, anybody that calls me their friend, first of all, you got to be a little bit of a weirdo. And you know, most people that I bring on this show are people that work with me in this business. They're people that have helped me out through this business, but tonight is a special treat. I got Ronnie Sewell, a long-time friend. Family have known each other for a long time, but he's kind of molded what I've turned into, I would say. What do you think, Ronnie?
I don't know if it's that bad. You
Well,
kind
I
of
mean-
molded me a little bit.
I mean, you think to yourself, I first met you when? How old were we?
See, your brother and my brother were like best friends, and when he came over, he had to bring you.
Yeah, there wasn't no choice, was there?
Right, and so you were probably 8 or 10.
8 or 10.
I mean, we're like Cadillac seats. We go way back.
Yeah.
Way back.
That's right.
So we had a bunch of good times back then, no doubt about it. We had, on a farm. Our family had a farm, and Mark, your brother, and my brother Randy, they'd come over and hang out, and then we'd all hang out together. We had motorcycles and dirt bikes, and had a golf course behind us, and we'd do a little trespassing on that golf course because Mike would talk us into doing it.
Yeah, 8 or 10 years old. You know, one of the things I think about Ronnie was we used to ride, not me, I used to ride on the back, but there was, you know, y'all had some dirt bikes back then, and we'd kind of start the Saturday morning off on a dirt bike rampage, and there was times I remember we wouldn't get back till almost dark
Well,
all day.
we actually had 40 acres that we farmed, and then the mines had that property, and we'd ride on that property too, and it was probably a couple of hundred acres. We'd either break down or trespassing or something, but we'd be going you're right, all day, just having a blast.
You know, I remember, and remember this is all entertainment, so and we're well past statute of limitation. But I think you were the one that taught me that you can actually run from authority. We were over and we'll talk about the golf course, Diamond Hill. Y'all backed up to Diamond Hill, right?
Yep, the property did.
So there had to be 10 of us that day that went over there, and we had our bikes over there, and I forget exactly what happened, but they weren't happy with us.
I think you talked us in. We were sitting there hiding, and a guy hit a golf ball up on the green, and you ran up there and got that golf ball. I think
And is that where it started?
That's where it started, and it's been downhill ever since.
But then they came out in droves to chase us. You remember that?
Yeah, we had. Well, at one time we was out there with a motorcycle. We drove across them greens with that motorcycle.
Not
dirt bike.
we. Not
Well, you was
we.
on the back of it. I remember it. You said go that way.
Yeah. I remember they came out there with these golf carts, and I forget who it was that kicked the water jug over.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
What happened?
Yeah, you kicked it up. They had
We'll hear your story. That'll probably be dirtied up some, and then we'll hear my story. What happened?
The bathrooms right there. They have the where you use the bathrooms and the water drink, and they had a igloo full of ice, and yeah, Mike kicked that over. I forgot all about that.
But we were all done drinking, so we didn't need any more, right?
Yeah, we were finished. We'd
So-
go into. They had ponds there. We'd walk into them ponds and pick up golf balls, and heck, there was gators in it. And all
You
kinds
know,
of stuff.
I remember one time, and we'll jump back to that other story because this was part of it. You had a dog, you had a pit bull named Clyde, wasn't it?
Oh yeah,
Or was it a boxer?
he was half boxer, half pit.
Yeah, he was half boxer, half pit, and just a great dog.
Good
and he
dog.
kind of followed us everywhere, and he
Yeah.
couldn't stand it if we left the house and he couldn't go.
Man,
I mean, he would do everything he could to get out. Well, you also had your dad years ago, an uncle I think, had a septic tank service, right?
yeah, my daddy had one.
So they had a pond that was controlled that they would put it in to kind of do it, and the dog ended up going in the pond of septic tank.
Yeah,
You know?
we call it controlled area, but
Yeah.
it was a ditch. We just dumped it in. That was years ago, though.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all legal now.
So, and we went over and we had to wash the dog because we'd have got in trouble if we brought a crappy dog home, right?
He walked right through that crap. It was unbelievable.
So we got him over there in the pond at Diamond Hill. I think Randy or somebody was in there rinsing him off. Could have been you, and got him all cleaned again. And then we went up to get water, and I accidentally knocked the water jug over, and everybody there, everybody had you know, the golf course thought we did it on purpose. Well, we all took off because they had 15 golf carts chasing us. And I'll never forget. Ronnie started up, what was it? It was a Nelson R125
No,
or RM?
no, that's what my cousin had. He had the RM 125. I had a Yamaha 125.
That was a YZ?
YZ, yeah.
Yeah, just a
Man,
screamer.
I forgot about all this stuff, yeah.
He jumped on that bike and come out of that woods like Evel Knievel on the back tire. And they didn't know what to think because he wasn't running from him. He was going to. Is that the 18th hole up there?
No, that is the 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th hole.
So the 13th hole's way up on a mountain at Diamond Hill.
Oh, that's 15th. I'm sorry. Yeah, that one. Oh, I forgot. Yeah,
You remember
yeah. That's
Say-
the 15th hole.
He's got 7 golf carts chasing him. He's on a YZ 125. He hits the sand pit or whatever you want to call it, does a donut in it, and comes down right between all of them.
Yeah.
And I wasn't on the back. I was waiting for you at the edge of the woods. I got on the back and we took on off.
Yeah.
And then I remember we went through a strawberry field that you said we don't need to go all the way around. We'll go through the middle of it, and we're running through the middle of it, and the guy started shooting at us. Rock salt, and you told me, well, that's why you were on the back, because I ain't going to get hit. You are.
Yeah, that was a farmer next door.
He was a friendly guy, wasn't he?
Well, he didn't know who we were. That's why he shot at us. He didn't
Yeah.
know who we were.
That's the first time. I was probably 10 years old, first time I got shot at. Thanks, Ronnie. Thanks,
time.
Ronnie Sewell. Yeah, that wasn't the last time, but it was the first time I got shot at. We had some good times, though, back then. It seemed like Brandon, a lot smaller. You were actually in Valrico, but you went to Brandon High School, right?
Right, correct. And we had the farm, and my daddy actually growed corn and beans, and we played Little League Baseball with you and your brother and a bunch of different friends of ours. We all knew each other. And my dad would ask them guys if they wanted to come out there and pick corn. And today, those guys tell me how they loved it. You know, the Lee Dykes, the Pat Browns, the Mark Lynns, you know,
Sure.
all those guys that were friends, all of us, and they had a blast. I mean, we're driving pickup trucks at 14 years old on the farm now, not on
Yeah.
the road, but
Yeah.
people learning how to drive, and we're going through corn. I remember one time, I don't remember who was driving, but he put a corn stalk through the radiator. Boy, my dad jumped up and down about that.
He's upset, huh?
But, yeah, you know, a lot of them boys bring that up when I see them. They remember coming out there doing that, and we just...
Now you're one of 3, right? You
I'm
got
the oldest.
2 other brothers.
I got a brother named
Now,
Randy.
is it true the oldest always gets it the easiest?
Well, I don't know about that.
No? Because I
They
remember...
call it firstborn.
Yeah, when you first got your license, there wasn't no more corn or picking peas or splitting peas or none of that. You had a Bronco and the keys to it, and you went off and tried to do everything you could but work around the house, wasn't it?
Well, I did kind of escape a little bit. But that Bronco you're talking about, I crashed it when I was 15. And down on the road, a dog jumped out in front of me, and I slammed the brakes, and that Bronco, they kind of funny, and it turned me right into an oak tree. And man, I was 15, but I was crying like a gut shot panther. I mean, I was just
Well, you knew
all
what was going to
upset.
happen.
I
to
knew
you.
what my dad was a big old fella. And we had a Little League game that night, and it was picture night. I still got that picture. My eyes was red as a beet because I'd been crying for the last 2 hours.
I bet he didn't look too happy in that picture either, did he?
No, he don't. No, he was revved up too.
You know, you were talking about that North Brandon Little League, some
Yep.
good times back then,
Yep.
huh?
Yep.
And you were at the actual old North Brandon, weren't you? Behind Yates?
Yep. We started there behind Yates, and then my dad and Mr. Mahoney and Mr. Bolin and Mr.
Burbage.
Caston, Burbage, Dykes, they all helped build that new North Brandon Little League. They were the men
Yeah.
after work, and they'd go there every evening and work on that field and build it to where we had an excellent facility to play ball at.
Yeah. I used to love it. Y'all'd be out there playing baseball, and of course I had to be there. You know,
Yeah.
they'd drop me off, and I'd stick my arm through them holes in there, and I'd pinch them older guys in there on the dugout bench and just get a hold of them through them little dugout holes, and they couldn't leave. You know, coach
Yeah,
get mad if you want to go out and use the bathroom. You couldn't do that.
Yeah.
And I'd laugh at them.
Yeah, it's not like it when we were younger. When was that? Late 70s.
Yeah.
We had rules. Our mom and dad or our coaches said stay in that dugout. You stayed in that dugout. Nowadays, they walk around and go out there and get an ice cream.
Yeah, mom's got a sandwich for them.
Yeah, it ain't like that.
No.
It wasn't like that when we was growing up.
It was a tough time, and a lot of good people there.
We had Grant jam up. I mean, the difference, they meant what they said what they meant and meant what they said, and you better do it.
And those people from those days still come into this store. Your dad passed away not too long ago. What a great person he was, and just a good leader in the Brandon area. Like you said, it was all about the kids and Little League and going to the Keys and the beach and all them good times, and you just don't see a lot of that anymore. Especially the people, what I really like, Ronnie, is being able to talk to people like yourself that I've known forever. You know what I mean? There ain't too many of them around. You know, a lot of people up and move, and you still around. What are you doing now?
Well, I live on the land that my dad was born on in 1942. I live on that property. It's not the same house. We did get a new tent, but it's the same property. And then, like you said, he come up and he talked work ethics and no lying, and he just didn't believe in that. That's just how he.
What'd they think about Mahoney having to come over when Randy, your brother, would hang up the phone and said, "Yeah, Mark said he could spend the night, but he's got to bring his brother with him."
Yeah.
What would be the talk over there at the Sewell's house?
Oh gosh, what are we going to do now? What kind of trouble? Well, we had a pool table, you remember?
Oh yeah.
And so we'd shoot pool till 2:00 in the morning, and a lot of guys from Brandon would come over. I don't know how they got there. They weren't even old enough to drive.
They're probably like you, driving cars at 14 years old.
Them Gibbons boys and that Swilly and Cardi, all them guys, you remember them?
Man, we'd have a good time over there.
Yeah, but y'all are the only one that spent the night. Those boys weren't allowed to spend the night.
Yeah.
Mark could spend the night, and then, of course, that made you have to spend the night.
And y'all'd have to control me, huh? It's a little bit wild.
Try to. See, you're a little bit older than my younger brother, which he's
They wouldn't
he's a
even
wildcat.
let him around.
Yeah, he's a wildcat.
I remember when we were kids and we'd go outside to play, Ricky had to stay back.
Yeah.
She didn't want to contaminate him with them Mahoney boys.
Yeah. Well, he's up in Tennessee now.
I saw that.
Riding side by side, and he got pulled over by a Tennessee police officer on his side by side. And he told me the officer did not give him a ticket. He said, but he had to take it. And he said that officer called him stupid 3 times. He said he'd rather have had the ticket.
Yeah,
he said he didn't say nothing back.
Hard time biting his lip there.
Yeah, but yeah.
Ricky ain't one that wants to be quiet, is he?
No, he held it back.
So what you doing now, Ronnie? You doing any farming? You following that along?
Yeah, well, I've been to cows. I got a bunch of cows, a commercial operation that's crossbred cows, and I grow the calves and I sell them at the market or sell them to an individual if they want them. And right now I'm in the process of planting a hayfield. I hope to have it planted in the next 2 weeks. I got that 40 acres leased right by my house. It used to be my granddaddy's 10 acres of it, and then Tampa Electric bought it from him. So I was able to lease that back. And then there's another piece behind that, another 20 acres, 25 acres, and I lease that too. And then I'm going to bring calves over there and that. Now, I mess with that agriculture, and I do land clearing for a company, and I do some septic work on the side. I do anything, man. I'll cut the nuts off a mule if they need it. And so I just do whatever I got to do.
You're still number 1 in the number 2 business.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
I'm
you ain't no
busy.
Plumber, but you mess around with a septic tank if
Right.
you got an issue.
You know, one time, Mike, I was down there working on a septic tank, and for this older man, and he told me, he said, son, I wouldn't do that for $200 an hour. And I looked up at him, I said, me neither, it's about $350.
Always a good one, Ronnie. Well, I appreciate you coming out. We got another segment coming up. We're going to take a break right now, and we're still going to talk about a little bit of outlaw stuff that you got me into. I got some good ones.
Well, I appreciate the invite on here, but you know me, I ain't never turned anything down, except an old fat girl, and I turned her face down.
We'll be right back. We're back, round 2 with my weirdo buddy Ronnie Sewell from Valrico. One of the reasons why I'm as wild as I am, I had to hang out with him for several years. A little bit out of control as a kid, and they sent me over to the Sewell farm to get straightened out. Now, what's that story you got about being in the church? Remember I went to church with y'all?
Yeah, I remember that. We were
I was probably 7 or 8
Yeah,
years old.
7, 8 years old, and we were in church, and we all stood up to sing. And Mike was with us, and his brother, and my brothers, and my mom and dad. And we all stood up to sing, and a old fat lady in front of us stood up, and her dress was stuck right up in the crack of her butt. So Michael, being a little gentleman he was, he reached up there and he pulled that dress out. And my mama popped him on the hand, so Mike seen he had done wrong, so he just stuck it back up in there.
That's a true story, too.
That's true. That really happened right
That
there.
was something. I don't know what I was thinking at the time, but I knew I'd done wrong, and I was just trying to get that slap back.
Right, he's trying to apologize, so he just put it back up
Because your
in that
mom,
crack.
she run a school bus for many years. She'd
Many
straighten a kid out, wouldn't she?
Yep, she knew how to do it. She had them 3 boys. Then they'd bring you over. What'd you call come over? About once a month, maybe, or something like
Yeah,
that?
about as long as y'all could stand it, and then you'd ask me. I guess you'd call my parents on Sunday and say, when you coming to get him? Or you want me to drop him off?
Yeah.
And y'all'd say, well, you mean Mark and Mike? No, just Mike. Mark can stay another night if he wants. We're ready. We've about had our fill with Mike.
Yeah,
Had your hands full, didn't you?
yeah. My brother used to tell me stories where he'd go fishing with your daddy and Mark down at Longboat Key. And he said that they'd go way out there in a smaller boat. It wasn't a big boat like they have nowadays. And my brother Randy said, man, old Mr. Mahoney, he said, look, boys, you go ahead and steer us back in. I'm going to drink a couple of beers. He said, they didn't even know where in the world they were at or where they was going. But Mr. Mahoney said, just keep going. You got it. Keep going. That's how you grow up now, back in them days. That's how
you know what that was? That was a 16-foot wooden boat called the Coffin. Now, you didn't do much fishing,
No,
Ronnie?
I didn't. I was busy working.
Yeah, but even before then, your parents, I know they had a place on a lake, didn't they?
Yeah, I didn't go up there much. They did. They
Just
went to
never
Lake
got
Tiger.
into it much?
Nah, not really.
Just
I
one-
got a boat story I'll tell you, though. It's kind of where the word you got to be kidding me came from. It was back during the Revolutionary War, and they had these 12 guys on a little boat, and they were crossing the river. And they had Sergeant Peters was on the bow, and Lieutenant Johnson was on the stern, and they were crossing that river, and it was cold, freezing, snowing, iceberg, rain. It was terrible. They hit an iceberg, and Sergeant Peters, he fell in the water, and he drowned. Well, they finally got across to the other side, and the Lieutenant Johnson seen a house up on top of the hill. So he said, man, I'm going to go up there and see if if we can get in that house and warm up. So he went up there, and it was a red lantern on the door, and it was a whorehouse, cat house, He knocked on the door, and the madam came to the door, and she said, how can I help you? He said, I got a bunch of men down here. We are freezing. We are hungry. We're soaking wet. We need some place to stay. And is there any way you could help us? And she said, exactly how many men are you? And he said, there's 11 of us men without Peters. And she said, you got to be kidding me. That's where that came from.
Where does he come up with it? That's one thing, you always got jokes. What was the one about the dog? Let's tell that one.
The dog?
And the prize rabbit.
Oh,
Remember your
that
dad-
really happened. That wasn't a joke.
Yeah, well, let's hear it.
Our next door neighbors, my granddaddy sold. He had a bunch of land back when we were younger. And he sold 10 or 15 acres to a guy from South Tampa. Mr. Labdy was his name, and they had a granddaughter over, and we were still our old country self. We had Bulldog, Clyde, and we had one named Rambo, and we had different bulldogs. Well, they had their granddaughter, and they had a pet rabbit over there in a cage. And I come home from school one afternoon, and my dog had that rabbit in his mouth. I said, oh, my gosh, he has killed that rabbit. So I got that rabbit, and I took him and washed him off, and I got the mud and the blood all off of him, and I blow-dried his fur, and I stuck him back in that cage and leaned him up against the side of the cage. Well, I was out there nonchalant messing around in the yard and waiting for the neighbors to pull in. Well, they pulled in, and then the granddaughter jumped out of the car and ran to the rabbit cage and started screaming and crying and raising sand. I mean, it was unreal. So I ran around there, nonchalant, to say, what's wrong, what's wrong? And her granddaddy told me, he said, that rabbit died yesterday and we buried him and now he's back in that cage. That damn dog dug him up.
Man, only in the country of Valrico, huh?
Yeah.
You didn't want to have to pay for that rabbit,
No,
did
we were
you?
scared. Well, we were scared they'd call the Humane Society or something, but I thought he killed that rabbit, but he just dug him up. I wasn't aware of
Did
that.
you tell them to bury him deeper next time? They won't smell him.
Well, they
you didn't want to tell them
I
that.
didn't want to
Sound
tell
like a
them-
Stephen King movie. You had to
Right.
get on out of there.
Exactly.
Yeah, them neighbors, being neighbors to the Sewells, must have been a handful. I can tell you that.
Yeah, they enjoyed it though. Actually, they just from South Tampa. They were different people. They turned out to be good friends of ours. Matter of fact, when my daddy passed away in 2020, one of those sons was the first one in line at my daddy's funeral, and we haven't seen him in years. His name's David, and he was the first one in line. I was like, dang! I told Randy, I said, that's David.
Well, and it
You know,
tells
just-
you what an impact your dad did on so many people, and
My mom and dad are very good people, just like your mom and dad. Them people like that, man, they're a dying breed.
yeah.
I mean, me and my brother and I, we've gotten jobs because we're Ronald Sewell or Betty Jean Sewell's son. We've gotten jobs because
Yours
of that.
probably didn't last long, but I know Randy's lasts a little bit long. You've jumped around a little bit because that only took you to the first week, didn't it?
Yeah, well,
then after
I'm
that-
talking about like a job to tear down a tree or to put in a drain line or whatever. Randy, my middle brother works at Tampa Electric. Dad helped him get on, and yeah, he's living a good life.
I'll tell you something about that and the family and being so close, and it's one of the things I do on my video with my friends, because really that's what it's all about. It's about those memories and the support, and I really admire your family over there, Ronnie. You're right across the street from your mom. You're constantly over there. You got two brothers right down the street from you, not far away. Everybody's close together, and that's got so much more value to it than any type of business or an amount of money that you could have. And I go by there all the time. I see you on Facebook. You're involved a lot with your grandkids, and it looks like you're having a great old time. I can't imagine you teaching a little kid. That's my biggest concern. That if, what do they call that? Child Services comes out and looks at who's in control, and it's not your wife ain't nowhere around, there could be an issue.
Well, I do have a little trouble because I'm almost an antique, and I teach her them antique ways, and it don't work too good with the society we're dealing with now.
A little bit different, isn't it?
That's a big difference. I mean, if everybody watched Andy Griffith once a day, this would be a different world.
It'd
There's
be
no
a lot
doubt about
better.
it. And I make her watch it, so that's kind of rough.
Are you a one-man show with what you do in farming, or do you?
Yeah, I
have
do it
people-
all myself. Every now and then I'll hire somebody to help me because it just wears me out. I am getting old and long in the tooth. That's how they tell the age of a horse is by his teeth, and I'm getting long in the tooth, and it's rough. I got about 175 head,
Wow.
and I got pastures in different locations: Gibsonton, Turkey Creek, and
You're
Plant City.
doing some driving too. You do that daily?
No, in the wintertime, you really got to work a lot because you got to take hay out there because the grass, dies. And another bad time is during the drought. The grass stops growing, and that's rough too. And it takes a lot of work. You got to keep hay. You got them in prison. You got to take care of them.
Well, and I know sometimes I'm over maybe at your brother's house, and I see you going by, and it's getting close to dark, and I ask you where you're going, and you're going to fix a fence.
Fix a fence. I get a call. A bull's out. I have to go feed. I got work to do to get done, but I can always go feed them anytime I want. I got a big bull that kept getting out, so I put him in a little timeout pasture that I got. It's about a half an acre, and I got to keep him fed because he's in there. They don't have a whole lot of grass in there, so until he straightens up a little bit, and I fix that fence.
How do you handle a big bull like that gets out? You don't ride a horse, do you?
No, and I'm gonna tell you something.
How
That
did-
bull doesn't look that big until he's out, and when he's out, I was like, "Gosh Almighty, that's my big old bull."
How do you get him back in?
Feed, because if you pressure them, they'll get stupid on you. They're just like my younger brother Ricky. If you pressure him, he gets revved up. You got to just take it easy with him and feed it, and don't push him. Even in the cow pens, when we work them, when they get contained in that squeeze chute, he loses it. I mean, he starts trying to tear things up. He's just a 1,800-pound bull, and he will hurt you. Playing, he'll hurt you. I had a cousin that got knocked out by one, just playing. But they don't realize it, and we're just old humans, and they'll step on us and all kinds of crap.
Especially if they're wanting to play, huh?
If they want to play and they rev that head up, that head will hit you in the chin and knock you out. And you out there by yourself, it ain't too good.
No, so you kind of just bait him along with a little
Baby
bit of food.
along, yeah. The last time he was out, it was over in the Turkey Creek pasture, and I pulled up. A man called me, and I pulled up. Him and his wife were out there, And she said, "Is that your cow?" I said, "Well, he's actually a bull." And when I told her he was a bull, she hauled butt and ran into the house.
Oh, she was in there with him.
Well, it was out. It was out of the pasture.
Yeah, I got you.
And it was in her yard.
And how far away was that from your place?
Actually, about 40 yards. But the problem is, the road was about 50 yards. And if he gets on that road and a vehicle hits him, then you're looking at a lawsuit and you're out of business and everything else.
Yeah.
I have insurance for them reasons, but it can happen.
Well, and something like that, you run into it, there's a very well good chance there's going to be a fatality.
That's highly possible too, especially with that big of a bull.
Yeah, that kind of weight. Well, that must be a kind of do what you want, but you do a lot of it.
Well, I enjoy that part. I don't do that full time. I'm more or less a part-time farmer, but I enjoy that. When I go out there and work hard and sweating all the time, and I see a newborn calf, that just makes my day. I mean, I'm going to sell him eventually, but I just like to see a new calf. It ain't about the money when I see it. It's just I pulled a many of them. The calves are too big for they call it a heifer, first calf heifer, and sometimes you have to pull them. One of the things you do is you try to get a bull that has a small birthing weight when they have calves, and that's in their bloodline. Because some of them have bigger calves. Like a 90-pound calf is a big calf. So you kind of want one 60, 70 pounds, and they got smaller hips and all that. Shoulders and stuff. And when they come out the birth canal, it just makes it a lot easier. Up in North Dakota, in places like that, they bring them in barns during the wintertime when they have them calves, because they know they're going to have to, all the heifers, they bring all the heifers in case they have to pull them, because that's what they do for a living. If I have a dead cow, I do have a regular job. I'll be all right. But those guys, they do it for a living. They can't afford to lose a calf.
Right.
And
well,
a lot of
you don't want to anyway.
Yeah, I don't need
help it.
Yeah,
right.
I do what I can. I've been out there at 12 o'clock at night working on cows. I've done a lot of it. I enjoy it though. And I fix fence. I had a guy call my brother the other day, just like you said, knowing everybody. And one of the guys was driving down on Turkey Creek Road, and he said, "Hey, tell your brother he's got a dead calf out there on the side of the road." I said, so Randy called me, and I said, "You got to be kidding me." I said, "I ain't heard nothing about it." So I drove over there, figured somebody run over on my calves. I'm waiting for a lawsuit or something. And luckily, it was a dead deer. Best feeling I've had in a long time. I was like, wow, I didn't know. But they just drove by and seen the fur.
Yeah.
On the outside of the fence, an animal laying there.
Well, and there's people looking out for
Yeah, looking out, bud. That's what it's all about.
Now, you're talking about kind of restricting and putting a little pressure on that bull, and it goes crazy like your brother there. Y'all tore up a fence one time out front, didn't you? You put a little pressure on your brother, and y'all went through the neighbor's privacy fence?
Hell yeah, I forgot about that. That's probably been about 10 years ago.
Yeah, you put a little too much pressure on him trying to get him out of there or something. He just went wild on you, didn't he?
Yeah, he spun me around like an alligator. This alligator up here, he kind of bit me in what do you call that turn?
Yeah.
Death roll.
He death rolled you?
He death rolled me. He's a lot bigger than I am. You know him. He's 6'4", and I am 6 foot. 5'11" and a half, but I go ahead and count it off at that 6 foot.
There you go. I think we can count that.
Both my daddy was big man. Both brothers are big men. My mama, she's not big. I guess I'm built like her.
Who's the toughest out of all three of y'all?
I'd probably have to lean towards me as being tough.
Oh yeah. You'd take the beating that either
take
one
the
of them and put
it on. Yeah. That's what it boils down to. Yeah, but we all work hard, and we just, that's ethics my dad and mom taught us, and that's how, just like y'all. I mean, you got to work. That's what we do.
It's like I tell people about your kids and raising kids, and all you can really do today or any time is put your morals and beliefs in them. From there, they're on their own, and that's what all of us look back on, is what we've been taught by our parents, and the morals and beliefs and the respect and all that stuff. And it seemed like Brandon was a whole different ball game back then when we were kids. Everybody knew everybody. Of course, one of the famous guys, the most famous guy in Brandon, I think, when I was growing up, was Stephen Cribbs.
Oh, yeah.
You remember Cribbs?
Yeah.
He would run us out of being somewhere down in Valrico, and the same night be up behind Furman at the power lines, and he'd run us out.
Yeah.
And then we'd be up at Chuck E. Cheese, and we'd see him. And you know what the funniest story I've ever heard? I had a buddy of mine, Keith Reed. He passed away, but we were young kids, and if you remember, you had Chuck E. Cheese, and you had McDonald's in Brandon, and then late night, all the young kids, we all went to Frenchie's. You remember going to Frenchie's?
Yeah. Well, I didn't go there much. That was a bar.
Yeah, but we hung out in the parking lot.
Yeah, hung out in the parking lot.
200 people in the parking lot, and there'd be 3 people in the bar.
Yeah.
But we'd be in the parking lot out there late night. But Steve Cribbs was up at McDonald's trying to keep the peace with all the hot rodders, because there was a bunch of hot rodding cars back when we were kids. And I'll never forget Keith. Mr. Cribbs, Deputy Cribbs, walked into the McDonald's to use the bathroom. And, you know, back then they didn't have keyless entry in the vehicles. But he had his car locked up, and Keith Reed went over there and broke toothpicks off in the door locks. And then he took that black Camaro he had, 67, and did a burnout when he came back out. Now, he knows who he is. Back then, all the cops knew our parents.
Yeah.
You weren't, you know, but he just did it anyway. Burned him out, and Cribbs run to his car to go pull him over and couldn't get the key in there. It was still stuck. And, you know, I talked to him about that probably 8 years ago. He was up at Armwood. We were watching my son play baseball, and I'd brought that up and asked him if he still remembered it, and he just kind of looked at me and smiled. And that is a great guy, man. He really is. I think he cared about the people he patrolled. He knew all of us. He made it a point to know us. And out of all them people in Brandon and all that trouble going up and down, he kept the peace. He did a heck of a job there. You remember him, don't you?
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, like you said, the Reed family, they were brought up right too. I mean, that's just how everybody was back in them days. It ain't like it is now.
Yeah.
It just, you had rules and regulations, and you abided by them. I remember one of the guys at North Brandon Little League, he got caught throwing water balloons at cars when they come by. He was in an oak tree, and he hit a cop car with a water balloon, and that cop brought him up there to the Little League field and found his daddy, and his daddy got him and whipped his butt with a belt all the way around the back of that field. I remember
in front of everybody.
In front of everybody.
I'm glad that wasn't me. I could have
No,
been
it wasn't
caught
you.
doing it. It could have been.
I
Who
know.
was it?
Joe Freeman.
Joe Freeman.
I never will forget it. I seen him here about 2 years ago and asked him, did he remember it?
Did he?
He said, yeah. I
How could
remember
you
it."
forget that
I
one?
never will forget it. Golly.
Yeah, that was something else.
But you can do that nowadays. The daddy's going to jail, and that's one of the problems we have.
Yeah.
It's people just don't respect, and
You know,
no
you got-
morals, no morals.
Yeah. And you need to focus more on having fun with friends. That's the best way to do it. Well, Ronnie, I appreciate you coming out and spending some time with me and making us laugh.
Yeah,
A
I
few of your
enjoyed it.
jokes are good. Remember, Ronnie Sewell, #1 in the #2 business, right?
Yes, sir.
And you're the one that came up with that.
Yeah.
I just kind of stole it from you. Hey, next time I'm in a restaurant or next time I drive past your house, can you give me more than just a head? Huh? You know, last time I went by your house, you were talking to somebody that was important. I waved and you turned your head. Now, what's up with that?
No, that didn't happen. If I nodded my head, I had a weed eater in my hand, or
No, you were sitting there
change
talking to a guy in another big truck, and Mahoney drives by and gives you a wave, and you just now your buddy waved.
if I did that, it's payback from what you did to me about 6 years ago in a restaurant. So
Yeah, but I had an excuse. What happened in that restaurant? Where was it? Carmine's?
Carmine's restaurant, and me and a friend of mine
Sitting at the bar,
sitting
hitting
at the
on the
bar.
bartender.
No, we were eating, and he said, "Hey, there's your friend Mahoney." And I looked over and said, "How about it, Michael?" And you just nodded your head and kept walking. And I said, "What in the world?" And that guy says, "I thought he was your friend."
That's not acknowledging you.
I said, "That's a bunch of bull crap."
Hey, I was 5 minutes late. I had some TV people. I gave you the head nod, which should be sufficient. What'd you want to do, a fist bump?
Well, I tell you what, you thought it was so bad when I got home, you were at my mom and dad's house with shirts and hats.
'Cause I
And my
knew-
mom and dad said, "Look what Michael brought us." I said, "Y'all want me to tell you why he brought it?" Yeah, I remember that.
Hey, I went right to the problem solver. I went to Mom and gave her a brand new T-shirt. I knew there wouldn't be no problems.
Yeah, she said, "Oh, he didn't do that. Look, he brought us shirts." I said, "Okay, Mom, whatever."
Well, Ronnie, truly, from the bottom of my heart, I've enjoyed the memories I've had with you and your family. They're super good people. Love seeing your mom on Facebook commenting. Your brother's up in the mountains right now, riding that four-wheeler, getting crazy with it. You're here working, and who knows where Randy is. Randy's stick and move. I see him on Facebook. He throws a comment, and he's gone.
Yeah.
You know, he ain't going to stick around too much. But what great people.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
And I appreciate it, Ronnie. Thanks for coming out, buddy.
Thank you for the invitation.